So the reason that I thought you could just start off by taking a few minutes to go to the moral machine is about one of the ethical situations in um, artificial intelligence. So if we're going to have self-driving cars, what should happen if there's going to be an accident and lives might be lost or people seriously injured? So if you go to the moralmachine.net site, it gives you situations, and the idea is to get um, the idea is what if you were the AI car, and so there's going to be an accident, and would four people die? Should it be the ones on the walkway, or the ones in the car? You would consider if someone, when they say a large man or a large woman, they mean someone who's not in good health, and when they say an athlete, someone in good health. Should the machine think of those when it's making a situation? So maybe I'll say, okay, well, shouldn't it's the car brakes failed, so the people who are crossing the street, they're not involved. They shouldn't suffer. So I'll pick that the people in the car are injured. And then you have here, oh, should the car keep going and run over a doctor and their dogs, or should it kill three people? So would value the pets, or would you value the people or the profession of the doctor? And it's not meant to spend a lot of time on it, but just when you understand that if we're going to devote machine learning and artificial intelligence to business, they'll have to make certain choices. So maybe I'll say, I'm a animal lover. I want the dogs to live, and just have a look at some of the situations. If you're not sure what the situation means, click show description, and okay, well, this one, it's 5 versus 4, so I'll choose the 4. And just to get an idea of, like, because what people are, they're not worried that artificial intelligence will do the job accurately. They're worried about, well, what if the machines go crazy and do something straight out of the Terminator or the Matrix? And the purpose of this website was to give people some input into how the machines reacted in these situations. So now just an introduction as to how business uses artificial intelligence, and you can pick the field that you're interested in and look a little bit more into how machines play a role in automating tasks humans used to do. So the idea with artificial intelligence, it's a machine that's going to act like a human, and it's going to learn to refine the responses. So if somebody is diagnosing medical imaging, a real doctor would come and confirm. So this is a quick overview about how artificial intelligence is used in business, how machine learning is used in business, and a bit of an overview of some of the ways that it is utilized. And then when you're done, you can pick a career or an industry of your own choice and research more the impact of AI. So AI would be a machine that is going to think like a human. So it's becoming more like a human, able to make decisions, and it's not just no longer a calculator or an organizer. And machine learning means that it's going to refine its responses to become more helpful. So, for example, a medical imaging scan could be done on cancer patients, and they could say, is this cancer, yes or no? And they would compare the machine, they'd input a bunch of results that where a doctor had actually done a biopsy and confirmed that there was cancer, and said, hey, look, here's 1,000 examples of what cancer looks like. Here's 1,000 examples of strange results that aren't cancer. And as the machine kept diagnosing it, they would confirm with what doctors thought or confirm with the results from surgery, so that the base of the knowledge base gets bigger and bigger, and ideally the machine is going to get more and more accurate. And then also, you might have already run into a chat bot or something that's designed to anticipate and respond to typical, human questions and answers. So here's an example on the right hand side at the hardware store. A fellow robot goes up and down the shelves at Lowe's and it scanning what is in the wrong place. For example, if someone took something out and put it back in the wrong place, it'll flag that part of the store. If something needs to be reordered, it will flag it. And the idea is that the salespeople can give more one-on-one help because the robot is going through and doing some of the more basic jobs. Here is a really good use of AI. A doctor in their lifetime might see hundreds or dozens of scans, but an AI program could look at thousands, hundreds of thousands of programs, results from around the North America or the world and just have this huge base of knowledge. So the doctor might still make a mistake every couple of dozen times, but a machine becomes less likely to do that because they're able to quickly repeat the task and they can have access to patients from every single hospital, not just one hospital like a doctor would.
There's no cancer treated without understanding what the pathology is.
The tissue slides that pathologists use to diagnose cancer contain a vast amount of information. It's very time-consuming, very fatiguing.
Every cell needs to be examined. Sometimes cancer is very difficult to recognize.
We had the idea for the microscope project about a year ago. It brings augmented reality into an existing microscope to detect cancers in real time. We're bringing AI directly to the user and meeting them where they are right now.
I think this is going to enable almost all pathologists to have access to machine learning.
Just a few weeks ago, we got it working end-to-end.
It has a camera, so it's seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Information is being fed into a computer, which is doing billions of calculations and telling me that's the tumor, that's not the tumor.
Right now, it detects breast cancer and prostate cancer, but it could also work on any other cancer type that we train models for. The knowledge that you're getting when the microscope points out cancer to you is the knowledge of many pathologists who contributed to training the machine learning model.
We had a team of pathologists that went through thousands of images, teaching the computer what cancer cells look like.
I think it has been very effective at locating areas of concern. It's like getting a second opinion.
It's going to make the doctors much quicker. They're going to make them better, which is going to overall benefit the patient.
The mission is to increase the accuracy and availability of cancer diagnosis and save people's lives. I can hardly think of anything that's more motivating.
And so that would be a positive use of AI. The number of doctors are limited, but a machine can process many test results and because it's recognizing patterns, can get through the details of the scan quicker than a doctor can. So it's a trend in business that's really taken off lately, and it's expected to go up to $60 billion in 2025 from almost nothing a few years ago. Finance, health, driving, automation, it's a bit impacting a lot of fields. So this graph, what it means is which ones are profitable and which ones are not. So going to the right is more profitable, to the left is either just breaking even or in some cases losing money. And the orange line are people who are early adopters. That is, they're trying to see that next breakthrough, that next AI innovation, and they're being proactive about accomplishing it. The blue ones are ones that are experimenting, but they're not committed as much to AI as the orange group. And lastly, the gray one has no AI. And you can see the proactive use is definitely more profitable, whether it's in financial services, whether it's in transportation, whether it's in retail, whether it's in education, and then the it's closer between partial and no adoption, but it does seem that almost every company and industry that invests in some AI is making greater profits because they are more accurate in their decisions, and they are also replacing uh, the cost of a person with something that's cheaper. So that sort of hints about to the ethical implications of this. That it's not necessarily a issue where AI is totally good or totally bad. So it can work in ways you might not anticipate. We have a lot, as people, are biased towards people we think are like us. When you see someone who is like you, or you think that they have the same characteristics as you might be biased to them. And in human resources, when job interviews occur, people can be very, very biased. And this is a Canadian company that's using AI to eliminate the human element of job interviews.
So this one is from Luis Guillermo Trejo Letachapaya.
Getting a job is hard. Even getting an interview can seem impossible.
In terms of hiring, I always go by Guillermo Trejo.
It's a multifaceted challenge, but there's one in particular we wanted to hear about. So my producer made a call out.
Hi, I'm Anand Ram. Well, actually, my name is Chandrasekhar Ramakrishnan. You can tell why I never put that on a resume. We're working on a story about hiring at the National, and we want to know if you got a story like mine. So we heard from a few Canadians. Some change their name on resumes, some don't. Some don't change it on paper, but when they get to the office, they do it just so they have an easier time communicating.
So this message is from Moishe Callow. Quote, I found that if I use my name on a resume, I'm much less likely to get a call for an interview than if I use an English name.
Yeah, this one's from Anjana Kipfer. That's her husband's last name. Back in the day, I sent tons of resumes as Ghosh Dastidar, and most of the time, crickets. Sent same resume as Kipfer, got a call on the first one. Coincidence? Maybe.
Sure, but there is Canadian research that suggests that maybe it's not a coincidence and that names do matter.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at you and me. We went to the same school, have the same degree, but that Canadian research suggests that a Matthew is 39% more likely to get a call back than a Chandrasekhar.
And just that one bias, names on a resume, was why a Toronto software company called Naukri was founded.
I was extremely broke, and I would apply to hundreds of positions, and I just wouldn't hear back.
And I said, hey, Johnzip, maybe you might want to try changing your name on your resume to Jason.
I changed up my name to Jason for a couple of the resumes, to Jay, Jamal, just try to test it out. And within 4 weeks, I got a job.
But having to change his name in the first place, well, that didn't sit well with Ansari. He co-founded Naukri with a goal to reduce human bias in the hiring process so that no one else would be overlooked for something as irrelevant as a name. And not just a name, but race, gender, ethnicity, and sexuality too.
I'm interested in consulting because of...
When you apply for a job with a company that uses Naukri software, you're asked to record yourself answering a few short questions. That's where artificial intelligence comes in.
We're essentially assessing verbal and nonverbal communication skills. We're taking a look at emotion, tonality, and speech, and exactly that relevance of that response as well.
Naukri uses facial recognition as well as speech and language analysis. The algorithms look at several thousand data points to evaluate traits such as empathy, confidence, and a willingness to collaborate, what psychologists say can be predictors of a person's success. The algorithms score each candidate's performance, and employers get a short list of the most highly ranked. No names, no faces. Naukri says employees see 17% more candidates of color and 6% more women on average when compared to their previous hiring practice. It's an improvement, but some are skeptical that we can use AI reliably in this way.
It seems very pernicious to me, I think, to expect the signals we affect with our face being somehow a reliable indicator of some fundamental human truth about our competencies and capabilities.
This is Solon Barakis. He studies fairness and accountability in AI-assisted decision-making, and for good reason.
What is commonly believed is that by just automating some process, somehow you've now just eliminated the source of possible bias. But machine learning requires that you provide it with historical examples. The examples are going to probably feed forward many of the same kinds of biases that this system is ostensibly supposed to eliminate.
We put that concern to Nakri.
So what have you guys done to ensure that your own algorithms aren't also introducing their own bias as well in sort of that process?
We made sure that we have a diverse team at Nakri, and secondly, is a diverse data set of race, gender, ethnicity, accents.
And if the algorithm begins analyzing something that seems a little bit foreign or unfamiliar to it, it will red flag those videos so that a person can take a look at it.
Nakri isn't the only company using AI in the hiring process, but even if the technology works as promised, it's only part of the puzzle. As for what happens after someone's been hired,
are we ready to receive them? Are we ready to actually encourage them to succeed in the way that other people get to succeed?
As an advocate for women in the science and tech sectors, Sadia Muzaffar worries that companies will try to use this software without having considered biases in their company's culture overall.
Women, particularly, may be brought in as a result of this because somebody somewhere said we need to diversify our candidate pool. But have you done the work of, revising pay equity in the workplace where they're coming in? Have you done the work of making sure that if there are issues of abuse of power or sexual harassment, that there are policies in place where these women can go? All of these things are people things. That software is not going to help with that.
To their credit, Nakri's co-founders say they understand, and that they're only interested in working with clients who get it too.
There's no silver bullet. You can't just onboard a whole bunch of technological solutions and say you've done your work. Even as a company, we have the long term in mind, right? If a customer comes to us and they just want these sound bites and they want to improve their metrics, those candidates that they end up hiring are going to eventually leave that organization anyways because they weren't in an inclusive environment that let them thrive.
Matthew Braga, CBC News, Toronto.
So hiring is difficult, and if you do it wrong, you have to deal with training the bad employee, working with the bad employee to find out that they're unqualified, terminating them, advertising the position again, rehiring, and retraining a new person. So the AI might help people be more accurate, especially small companies that don't hire a lot. So what are the concerns? The ethics. For example, people are concerned that machines will make the right decision. Going back to that medical example, some people just won't trust that a machine can make the right decision. The cost of setting things up. So traffic lights could be managed by AI, and they might be able to have traffic flow more smoothly, but just think of all the traffic lights in Toronto. To set an intersection up as is diagrammed here would add up. Poor decisions. People think back to maybe a computer that they had that would freeze a lot. In Flint, Michigan, AI was used to help with the water that was tainted and identify which pipes needed to be replaced, but people just didn't want to give the machine that kind of power. They wanted a human to go in and investigate themselves. Finding the right partner, that is, which AI company should you deal with if you're an accounting company and you want, which AI company should you partner with? You've never done it before. It can be difficult to find the right sort of financial machine learning company to help your accountants. And sometimes it's necessary to integrate people together, the company that makes the sensor, the company that makes the display that the customer interacts with, the company that makes the processor. Having all those come together in a way that makes a coherent functional product is difficult. So here's another example of, once you have to set this up at your store, the idea is, at a self-checkout counter, like at a Metro or a Shoppers Drug Mart, if you install the camera above, it sees suspicious activity and flags it. So What would be the concerns here? Well, what's the cost of setting this up? Is the camera technology expensive? Is it making the right decision? If it was identifying someone who had stolen but they hadn't, or it was missing thieves, if they were, using sleight of hand, then that wouldn't be good. So you'd want it to be cheap, you'd want it to be easy for any of the employees to use, and you'd want it to accurately assess who is stealing and who isn't.
Theft for retailers has always been a big problem. Every time they lose an item, they have to sell 50 more just to make up for the one that they lost.
And many of those losses occur at checkout scanners by cashiers and customers. The National Retail Federation says an estimated $14 billion is lost annually in scan avoidance.
I'm going to pass a few around the scanner or cover up the barcode, do things such that it doesn't ring up.
The scams are brazen.
So the target shows you what to keep your eye on.
As blatant as throwing items down the belt.
These are items left in the cart.
Sometimes accidentally forgetting to scan things.
She should look up the code, but instead she ends up just giving it away for free.
Or customers just getting frustrated at the self-checkout. But intentional or not, now there's technology that spots it as it happens. It's called stop lift. Malloy Kundu is the founder.
And when you see these things, you're like, how could someone possibly do that?
Using artificial intelligence, it can read and flag checkout behaviors. Suspicious transactions can be questioned on the spot, and mistakes corrected before anyone is labeled a thief.
Call and attend over to give you some customer service.
I never expected to find something done purposely.
Miguel Garcia is the owner of Big Deal Supermarket in the Bronx and installed Stop Lift without initially telling his staff.
And I was happy afterwards to see that, in fact, it was mistakes.
Garcia says cashiers now know to look for items on the bottom of carts and even slow down to not miss a scan. He says with this technology, he's thinking of adding self-checkouts.
I think we're actually going to see in helping this theft prevention.
Tech expert Noah Birnbaum agrees this can keep profits in the stores, even passing savings to the consumers.
There's going to be more of this adoption to the technology, and I think that over time we will see less shrinkage in inventory loss.
And the experts say consumers are 5 times more likely to forget to scan an item at self-checkout versus one with a cashier. But
so the idea there is it was actually more of a training issue. It wasn't a matter of widespread theft, but as Miguel Garcia said, it pointed out areas where training was necessary. And when they use the term inventory shrinkage, if you're taking accounting this year, shrinkage is when inventory, naturally disappears, 1 or 2%. For example, at a supermarket, if food goes bad, that would be categorized as shrinkage. If something was damaged, if someone, at Indigo flipped through the book and it was dog-eared and no longer sellable, that would be shrinkage. Or in this case, if items left the store without being sold, they're categorized as shrinkage. And it's usually, there's always a little bit of it, but when shrinkage becomes too much, a business can lose money. Here's how the Toronto Raptors used SportsView, which is a series of cameras to evaluate players and who was in the right position. So it shows the players on defense and where they should have been. The ghost number is the outline number is where they should be, and it compares them to their real position to sort of evaluate how good they are. So then they could go to, say, 17 would have been Jonas Valanciunas at the time and say, look, you're just not in the right position. You're moving too slowly, or you need to step up more. And they were able to give more detailed feedback as a result of this scheme.